I want to talk about, Ryan and Oscar's feud,
Mm-hmm.
right? We talked about Rolly. We talked about, and Rolly's going to come into this topic. But after the fight with Gervonta Tank Davis, right? Of course, we know the presser, he was basically alone. His coach wasn't there. Oscar wasn't there. Bernard wasn't there. Of course, I think Bernard had more of a reason not being there. I think he wasn't because of the issue with the weigh-in. So they
Mm-hmm.
kind of like avoided his I guess quote unquote membership to attend that event. But Oscar kind of made up an excuse like, oh, I have death threats, but he was there drinking the whole event and whatnot and just didn't show up. And then I guess Ryan Garcia kind of brought this up again. I think he was on Bradley Martin, who's a YouTuber's
Mm-hmm.
one of his videos, and he was kind of talking about it. I guess Oscar caught wind, and he responded via Twitter, basically saying like, "Yo, bro, you still complaining about this?
Yeah.
Like, come on, you were the one that wanted to take this fight on a rehydration clause. Like, you the one that forced this." And remember, I was telling you before. I think that was one of the reasons why Oscar didn't want to show up because he's like, "Yo, bro, like." You forced us when you forced our hand to take this fight, even though I told you not to, and you lost. So you're gonna take that L on your own. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And he kind of regurgitated that, right? Of course, not saying that he heard it from me, but he kind of emphasized those points. And it was going back and forth. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that Oscar have some merit in basically telling Ryan Garcia to stop complaining and move on? Or do you think Ryan Garcia is fully justified to keep kind of bringing this up? And eventually, do you think he should just get away from the team entirely?
I think Ryan Garcia is justified in bringing this up. If we go to war together, then we go to war together. You don't just leave me. You know what I'm saying? Because if I would have won, you'd have wanted to be right there to reap all the benefits of me winning. So now that I lost,
Sure.
stand there with me. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how much you disagreed with it, and you disagreeing with it kind of shows the issue with these promoters. You know what I'm saying? When fighters want to fight fighters, stop getting in the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, I maybe you could have negotiated something along the lines of the no rehydration, or could have held out more for the right weight. But at the end of the day, I went into battle. You were supposed to go into battle with me as my promoter, and then you just kind of leave me hanging. I think that's a real sucker move. So I'm gonna complain about it all I want if I'm Ryan Garcia. You know what I'm saying? And then, but I think it just shows Oscar's character. And if Ryan were to try to remove himself from being around Oscar, he won't be the first major fighter to do that, right? So it may be a
Yeah.
trend there, it may be a pattern, it may just be Oscar's character why people want to separate themselves from him. Oscar was using some crazy words too towards Ryan. I was just like, this is getting heated on Twitter, but I side with Ryan in this feud. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards Ryan. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's like, and like you made a good point. If Ryan would have won, Oscar, you would have been there. Raising hands like, oh yeah, I told you guys, I believed in Ryan. Okay, during my days as a fighter, I like shut up. Like, you know what I mean? I just think if that's how he wants to talk and express himself, that's how he wants to talk. Because it's true. Like, you guys, you are a promoter, and you mentioned that promoters are not supposed to be out there, but you are out there. So now you can't use that, oh, promoters aren't supposed to be out there and support. This is like a leisure. You have that choice, but the fighter also has, his free will to express himself how he see fit.
Mm-hmm.
I think eventually they're just gonna have to go their separate ways, right? I know someone commented like, "Oh, Ryan got to leave," and Oscar responded like he has an ironclad contract,
Yeah,
insinuating like he with us, whether he likes it or not,
yeah.
in the long term. So,
All that meant is
you
I'll
know,
sue your ass, Ryan.
yeah, like yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
but
dog.
I, and I know Ryan was also upset about Oscar being with Rolly. That part I don't really care about because it might just be trying to promote the fight or kind of work on what you need to get the fight going. So, that's completely fine to me. It's all about like the press conference and stuff, and do I think Ryan's emotional? Yes. But do I
Yes.
think he's justified in having those emotions? I kind of do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people losing for the first time is very tough in the sport of boxing. Look at Teofimo Lopez, his first loss. I don't think he's, even after this Josh Taylor performance, I'm not sure he's over it because he still talks about it.
Yeah.
I almost died and I shouldn't even be here. I'm not going to say he's lying. I'm not going to say it's untrue. I don't know, but I'm just saying, look mentally at the difference in Teofimo Lopez. And I know he's going through some other stuff in his personal life, but
Right.
that first loss, that's a lot because you go in that squared circle, you've trained how long for this and you lose, that's tough on a person's psyche. So I think Oscar's wrong. I think kind of just needs to get back in there with Ryan and kind of like squash this, because at the end of the day, Ryan is right. Tank was the big fight. I bet everyone made more money than they've ever made that night. So I'm
Yeah,
sure Oscar is about his money. And if you want to continue making that big money, go with those big fights that Ryan wants.
exactly. So, I mean, at the end of the day, no love lost, no love lost between them, which I think were the words Ryan Garcia decided to use. But hopefully, like you said, they figure it out at the end of the day. Unless Ryan has some elaborate scheme to get out of his contract, like some of the other fighters we've seen in the past, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather. But I don't think he's in a position to do so right now. So,
Yeah. Quick Ryan note. Do you like him with Derrick James?
interesting. I want to say. See, that's the thing about Ryan. Like, I've never been big on Ryan because what you see, if you have a certain depth of awareness, just naturally, like people that just have strong awareness can kind of see people for who they are based off what they portray. Because sometimes what you portray is a big portion of who you are. And I think Ryan has portrayed himself to really be infatuated with social media, right? His followers, the people, who's constantly that helped him get to where he's at, on a star level, right? But he's also a person that is big on, like, he wears his emotions on the sleeve to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to say he's like soft, but he's not like a hardened fighter, like a traditional fighter, like
Mm-hmm.
some of these other fighters, right? He kind of he's backed out on fights on mental health, right? Mental health is real, but come on, if you're down and out, then you still got to pick yourself up, right? It's all about you, how you kind of tackle issues in your personal life, right? And still go through. And that's one thing I could kind of commend Teofimo. He's going through a lot, but he's still put on one of the best performances that we've seen in quite some time, right? And Ryan Garcia typically he's not that type. He don't have enough grit for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the lack of grit that I've seen in recent years from Ryan Garcia, I don't know how he'll be able to gel with Derrick James, Errol Spence, Jamel Charlo, or even AJ, to be quite honest. But yeah, I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm a little,
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to see and then Ryan has been shown that he's uncoachable as well.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows, man? To be honest, I'm is still a question mark for me.
Don't leave out my boy Frank Martin in that.
Oh,
Frank
yeah,
Martin's a part
Frank
of that stable as
Martin,
well.
he's a dog. Frank Martin's a dog as well. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about it neither, but I can't lie. And I know I'm in the minority with this unpopular opinion. I
mhm.
do think there's some grit in there with Ryan. And actually, I think after the Tank fight, I look at him as having more grit than I did before. And I know that's an unpopular opinion based on the way the fight ended, but leading up to
Yeah,
that fight,
yeah. I need you to explain. Like, yeah, please explain.
because leading up to that fight, there was an overwhelming majority of people who, first of all, wanting the fight, because like obviously a promoter was against it, but you
Okay.
really wanted that fight. So you could have easily just act like you wanted it, but knew it was never going to get made. But he genuinely wanted that fight. I respect that, right? But even the way he was fighting, even though I do think it was misguided, just some of that pressure he put on Tank in that second round. Listen, he had not in trouble, but he had Tank kind of like guessing. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? And then what people said about Ryan is, oh, he's soft. First big hit, and he's out of there. And he got a big hit, he went down and got right back up. You know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
so I do think there's some grit in there. Maybe going to that hot gym in Texas where it's 120 degrees in there every day and seeing EJ and Frank, that might pull the extra grit out of him. It may not, but I do think there's some grit in there, and it's just a matter of how it's going to be channeled out. I, I, I,
Okay.
listen, I I know he lost. I know people don't like the way he lost. I like Ryan more after the Javante fight than I did before the Javante fight, and that's just me.
I do think there's definitely potential. I do agree there is potential there. I mean, I did like his, how can I say, the intentions that he tried to like enforce upon Javante Take Davis. Of course, it was a bad game plan.
Mhm.
Um, and to be quite honest, I do think he also quit, right? I think he could have got up and had that warrior mentality like Mars and potentially. But at the end of the day, sometimes you do got to be smart, right? And, you know, live to fight another day, especially if you have an existing injury. I don't know what happened with them. But one thing I can agree with you on is, yes, there's potential there. However, it's all about his mental attitude. That's what I think. And I think you are right. I think the pieces that's laying on the floor right now for him to reevaluate his life can easily be pieced together to form a greater version of Ryan.
Yeah.
All requires him to kind of have 10 toes down, use all this negativity to fuel him to become a better version. And maybe the people around him in that gym is probably going to be the best thing for him. I just don't know if his old habits is going to creep in. That's what I just don't know. You know,
Yeah.
old habits are hard to die, man. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.